Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you as we formally name Hine Hall at Indiana University-Purdue University, Indianapolis. In naming this building, we honor the late Maynard K. Hine, Iupui's first Chancellor, the Dean of the Indiana University School of Dentistry for more than 20 years, a President of the American Dental Association, and a truly inspirational leader. Hine Hall was formerly part of the University Place Conference Center and Hotel, which has been repurposed into now 2 facilities. It comprises 30,000 square feet, which will include 15 classrooms, academic office space, and this magnificent auditorium where we are now gathered. It is complemented by the renovated University Tower, which, beginning with this academic year, will be Iupui's premier first-year student housing facility. As I look out over the audience, I'm delighted to see so many friends of Indiana University here with us today. I'm especially pleased to have members of the Indiana University Board of Trustees with us this afternoon. And I ask the trustees to stand as I introduce them, and could you please hold your applause until all are standing. With us today are William R. Cast of Fort Wayne, Chair of the Trustees, Patrick A. Shoulders of Evansville, Vice Chair of the Trustees, Mary Ellen K. Bishop of Carmel, Philip N. Eskew Jr. of North Webster, Janice L. Farlow of Indianapolis, our Student Trustee, James T. Morris of Indianapolis, Thomas E. Riley Jr. of Indianapolis, Derricka W. Rice of Carmel, and Randall L. Tobias of Carmel. Please join me in welcoming our trustees. And also with us today, both on the platform and in the audience, are numerous members of the Hine family. And I would just ask if maybe they could all stand, some will be introduced later, but they could all stand collectively for our greeting and welcome. In his highly influential book on urban design theory, The Architecture of the City, the late Italian architect and designer Aldo Rossi wrote that in almost all European cities, there are large palaces, building complexes or agglomerations that constitute whole pieces of the city, but whose function is no longer the original one. When one visits a monument of this time, Rossi continued, one is struck by the multiplicity of functions that a building can contain over time and how these functions are completely independent of time. Of course, the use of buildings for functions other than the one for which they were originally designed has been occurring for many, many centuries. This practice, known today as adaptive reuse, is the natural course for buildings, if they are to remain of use to society, a city, or in our case today, a university campus. The conversion of the former University Place Conference Center into a multi-use facility to include much-needed student housing, dining, and classroom space is only the most recent example of adaptive reuse on the Iupui campus. It also reflects IU's long-standing commitment to utilizing our facilities in the most effective way possible in support of our academic mission. Built in 1987, the University Place Conference Center and Hotel served as well for many years, but it operated at a loss and had accumulated a deficit. After a nearly year-long study, it was determined, in light of the acute need for additional classroom space and for on-campus housing, that the students, the faculty, and the staff of the Iupui campus would be better served by converting University Place into an academic building and a residence hall. Iupui's current on-campus housing had been at capacity for some time, with hundreds of students on a waiting list. In the new residential portion of this building, now known as the Tower, students will find a home that will nurture their success. The Tower also illustrates that the university's dedication to excellence extends to our commitment to student life. The campus has, of course, also seen increases in enrollment in the number of full-time students, and in the number of credit hours in which students are enrolled, all of which translates into a need for more class offerings and for additional classroom space. Hine Hall and its 15 classrooms will help to meet this critical need. As important as Hine Hall and the Tower are to students, they are also equally important to the university as a whole as they demonstrate Indiana University's ability to grow and change in response to student needs. The renovation of this building promises to have a dramatic impact on our efforts to increase our enrollment and retention, to enhance the learning environment for our students, and to provide them with an even more complete college experience. This adaptive reuse of a building at the heart of the Iupui campus also gives us an opportunity to honor the visionary first Chancellor of Iupui, the late Maynard K. Hine, by naming the academic portion of this building in his honor. Dr. Hine's contribution to this campus, to the city of Indianapolis, and to higher education more generally were enormous. He joined the IU School of Dentistry as professor and chairman of the Department of Oral Histopathology and Periodontics in 1944. The very next year, he became dean of the school, and he served in that role for nearly a quarter of a century until 1968. During his tenure as the longest-serving dean of the School of Dentistry underwent enormous growth and developed a national reputation for excellence, as you will hear from some of our subsequent speakers. In 1968, Dr. Hine began working with then IU President Joseph L. Sutton, Richard Lugar, who was then the mayor of Indianapolis, Frederick Hovde, the then president of Purdue, and many other community leaders to establish Iupui. In 1969, Maynard Hine was appointed as the first chancellor of the campus, and he served in this position until 1973. Chancellor Hine's office, by the way, was in a building that had formerly been home to a dry cleaning business. So there is a long history of adaptive reuse on the Iupui campus. Of course, Maynard Hine served as chancellor during the tremendously important formative years of Iupui, helping to, in the words of Professor Emeritus Ralph Gray in his excellent history of the campus, to weld the disparate parts of the institution into an integrated whole. His visionary leadership contributed to the foundation that has enabled Iupui to become one of the premier urban research campuses in the nation. His legacy on this campus lives on through the Maynard K. Hine Medal given for outstanding contributions to the campus and its alumni programs, and through the Maynard K. Hine Society, an endowment established by the School of Dentistry that gives generations of Hoosiers an opportunity to pursue excellence in dentistry, and now through Hine Hall, which honors Chancellor Hine as a truly outstanding educator. Projects like Hine Hall require a great team that collaborates on the many details that ultimately come together to make it a success. And I'd like to recognize a number of the project's strongest supporters. Chancellor Charles Bance, who carries on Maynard Hine's legacy of committed campus leadership, has been an untiring advocate for this project. Many IU faculty and administrators were part of the study of the viability of the conversion of the University Place Conference Center and Hotel, and still others have been part of various groups that have examined the need for additional classroom space on the campus. I also want to commend Vice President for Capital Planning and Facilities Tom Morrison, as well as the many design and renovation professionals, both internal and external, who contributed to this project. In The Architecture of the City, the book I mentioned before, Aldo Rossi also noted that a city collectively remembers its past through monuments. The city of Indianapolis is, of course, known for its grand monuments, like the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, the World War II Memorial, and the Vietnam and Korean War Memorials. But Rossi also held that any structure could potentially serve as a monument. In Hine Hall, then, the Iupui campus now has a facility that serves not only as a first-rate classroom building, but also as a monument to one of the campus's visionary leaders and to the thriving traditions of collaboration that he did so much to foster. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Charles R. Bance, the Chancellor of Iupui and Executive Vice President of Indiana University. Please join me in greeting Chancellor Bance.
Again, I'm cold. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. I want to add a word of thanks. President McRobbie, we owe you a great deal of thanks of support on this project, as well as all of the trustees. Obviously, we could not have done it without you and your support in this transition. And Tom and his team, Morrison, were incredibly helpful, as well as my colleagues, Dawn Rode, Zeb Davenport, and their teams simply couldn't have pulled this off. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm really here to say a few more words about Maynard Hine, a person who I was not privileged to know, who I did not take his office in Curly's Cleaners, but I kept up the tradition since I'm in a trailer, which we hope not to adapt its reuse, but end it. But I am fortunate to have spent 10 years living in the same home he spent several years as chancellor, and actually ran the campus from Cedar Crest, one of the Lilly homes. And as a result, when I moved last month, I discovered there were cases of books that he had collected. I had heard the stories, and it's true, but he loved books in a way that is truly impressive. But he had done many, many, many other things, and President McRobbie already set the tone for it, because he was given a challenge, frankly, nobody really done. That is, they decided rather quickly to create Iupui. According to Ralph Gray, it was basically from December of 1968 to January of 1969, and they were in business. And they made Chancellor Hine the person to take a lead, to be the architect, and there was no blueprint. And that is a statement about his creativity and also the wisdom of the metaphor that President McRobbie used about the architecture and adaptive reuse. But he clearly was guided by, obviously, good instincts. He clearly had a gift for identifying talent, a flair for diplomacy, and he must have been one determined individual. He clearly knew how to hit the ground running. You may not have processed that President McRobbie said he came here as a faculty member, a relatively junior faculty member, as a department chair, and a year later, he became dean of the dental school. That is not the usual path to a deanship. And he served in that for 23 years, longer than any other school dean of our dental school dean, although I learned this. His son has succeeded him in that distant number of years. He was known among his colleagues, and Larry Goldblatt was his successor and colleague, and served many years. And Larry described him as a person who could cut to the heart of issues, who had incredible organizational talents, and who had an instinct for making right decisions about people, policy, and progress without studying every decision to death. All of which sounds like a pretty good individual to be a startup campus, not just a company, because he was in business from the day he got the responsibility. This was not like starting from no students. There were roughly 10,000 students a part of this campus the day it began. He also was engaged in the community, which set part of the tradition of this campus, and you will probably hear about this from my colleagues in dentistry, but he was a legend as the person most responsible for fluoridation of water in the state of Indiana. And if you don't know public health, you would have no reason to know that fluoridation of water is considered to be one of the 10 most important things in the 20th century to public health in this country, because it so changed not only our oral health, but the rest of our health. As you heard from Larry, he had a great eye for talent and recruiting people and putting them to work and letting them lead themselves and not being a micromanager. He truly had a reputation for diplomacy, and there's a perfect example of this, something I didn't know till yesterday, that he took great pride in having convinced civic leaders to bring together Indiana University and Purdue here in this campus and not create a new university in Indiana, because that was the proposal in December of '68. And he was so diplomatic about it that the chief spokesperson for that idea was the mayor of the city of Indianapolis. And so when he put together a board of advisors, who did he ask, of course, immediately to be on his board of advisors was that mayor, Richard Lugar, to join that board of advisors. So he had that skill to bring together people who disagreed with him and allow them to work together and go forward. In 1968, on Maynard's death, Chancellor Jerry Bepko, who very much wanted to be here but is on the Commission of Higher Education meeting in Gary, which you may have known is a different time zone. And so they looked like he had time until he discovered it was Central Time. But Jerry said at that time in 1996 that he gives credit to our first chancellor, Maynard Hine, for getting Iupui early on committed to the spirit of collective enterprise, which has served us well. And what we will most remember today, this is 1996, is that getting on the wrong foot in 1969 would have put this fragile entity in jeopardy or limited our ability to grow or change with the times. And that did not happen because we had Maynard Hine to get us off to a good, solid start with planning and vision and a can-do spirit. So it is very clear that this person we named a classroom building, who was a professor, who was a researcher, who was an academic leader, was a person who made a difference. And that's why it is so right to be here today to name this hall Maynard K. Hine Hall here at Iupui. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Charles. Musical performances are one of the great traditions at IU ceremonies such as this. Today we are very pleased to welcome the a cappella group Vertical Dimension, which consists entirely of students from the IU School of Dentistry. They will perform a medley of the songs Somewhere Over the Rainbow and I Am Yours, followed by Indiana University's alma mater, Hail to Old IU. So please join me in welcoming Vertical Dimension.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I dreamed of once in a lullaby. I tried to be chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks, and now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my bestest, and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some. Oh, someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are. Where troubles melt like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where that's where you'll find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Oh, why then, oh, why can't I? Come and join in song together, shout with might and main. Our beloved alma mater, sound her praise again. Gloriana Frangipana, heir to her be true. She's the pride of Indiana, hail to old Iupui.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that wonderful performance. Well, we will now hear from three members of the Iupui community about the impact of this new resource, Hine Hall, the impact that it will have on teaching and on learning. First, we will hear from John N. Williams, the Dean of the IU School of Dentistry. Then we will hear from L. Jack Windsor, the President of the Iupui Faculty Council and a faculty member in the School of Dentistry. Following Professor Windsor will be Anthony L. Greco, the President of the Graduate and Professional Student Government, and each will speak without further introduction. So please welcome Dean Williams.
Let me add my appreciation to the vertical dimension. We're working on music scholarships for next year, so it's one of those growth industry, but thank you so much for your contribution to this very important and significant ceremony today. When I came to Indiana University from North Carolina to accept the dental school's deanship 3 years ago, I had many people, places, and things to learn about IU School of Dentistry, but Maynard Kiplinger Hine wasn't one of them. I'd been hearing about his legendary leadership in the field of dentistry throughout my career. He was, after all, the Hine of the celebrated Schaefer, Hine, and Levy pathology textbook that provided the pioneering educational guidepost to the new emerging field of oral pathology. And the text which I studied sometime in a challenging way, as a dental student. He was the dean who led and cultivated not just any dental school, but IU's dental school, known everywhere since its origin in 1879 as the Indiana Dental College, as one of the oldest and finest in the country. He was a dentist who acted upon his conviction that dental educators and practitioners must work side by side as collaborators in the profession. And this enabled him to juggle not only his responsibilities as dean, but carried him through the presidency of our national association, the American Dental Association. It was in that era that his nickname Kip, short for his middle name Kiplinger, was changed, much to his delight, to Skip, because he spent his years in leadership with the American Dental Association, skipping all over the country, tending to business. His former students and colleagues tell me that Dr. Hine led the IU Dental School to become a world-class institution by creating an environment where young professors and scientists could flourish in their work. He convinced many to devote their entire careers to the school, exceptional educators who went on to write some of the world's most revered dental textbooks and to conduct groundbreaking research. Leveraging these same talents enabled him to work effectively as IUPUI's first chancellor, the pathfinder who built the foundation on what IUPUI has become today. It's clear that Dr. Hine was unabashedly proud of two things: his family and his university. And he was profoundly moved at special moments when the two intersected. When Indiana Dental College, founded in 1879 and existed until 1925, until it became part of the Indiana University system, graduates were given the opportunity to have an IU diploma. Dean Hine signed a diploma in the 1950s for a 1904 alumnus as the elderly man stood beside the dean's desk. That man was Maynard's father, Dr. Clyde Hine. 66 years later, after receiving his University of Illinois dental degree, now the elder Dr. Maynard Hine, just 6 months before his death in 1996, robed up and joined the dental faculty on the commencement stage to help welcome his grandson, Will Hine, who's with us today, into the dental profession as a 1966 Indiana University Dental School graduate. Hine Hall will serve as a symbol of the impeccable standard of excellence that Dr. Hine set for both IUPUI and the School of Dentistry, a standard that all of us have followed, who have followed him, have embraced, and are dedicated to upholding. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. It is a great honor for me as president of the IUPUI Faculty Council, and more importantly, as a member of the School of Dentistry, to have an opportunity to say a few words at the naming of Hine Hall in honor of Dr. Malachi Hine, the first Chancellor of IUPUI and the Dean of the School of Dentistry for 23 years, as you've already heard. I think it is worth emphasizing that altogether, Dr. Hine served IU for an amazing 52 years. As you've heard already, he joined the IU faculty as head of oral, histopathology, and periodontics in 1994, and later become Dean of the School of Dentistry the following year. Under his leadership, the School of Dentistry became one of the top dental schools in the nation. His name became synonymous with excellence in both teaching and research. The school's reputation for excellence in academics and research flourished, especially in areas such as clinical dentistry and material science, as well as the discovery of the first successful stannous fluoride formula you've already heard about. I think that's found in Crest. The size of the dental school doubled under his time with an expansion project in the early 1960s. He then helped facilitate a second edition in 1972, 41 years ago. It's time for another one. Dr. Hine believed in faculty development, as you've already heard, and many outstanding careers are indebted to his leadership and vision. He invested in faculty. Dr. Hine showed this same caliber of leadership as he became first Chancellor of Iupui. It is impossible to sum up in a few words a man of Dr. Hine's greatness. He was essential for making Iupui what it is today. Iupui is positioned among the best urban research institutes thanks to the foundation laid by Dr. Hine and hundreds of faculty and staff members who took early part in the vision for Iupui. Dr. Hine's planning got Iupui off to a good, solid start so that the campus growth and flexibility would be limitless. His dedication to teaching and learning in general, and to Iupui in particular, is appropriately recognized here today as we name Hine Hall, a place to facilitate teaching, learning, and research for all of Iupui stakeholders. As we gather today to commemorate the enormous impacts that Dr. Hine made, I hope you join me in applauding his extraordinary dedication to the student dentistry and to Iupui and IU. Thank you, Dr. Hine.
On behalf of all students at Iupui, it is both an honor and a privilege to speak today about the opening of Hine Hall. I first came to Iupui in the fall of 2009 as a liberal arts student. My first class of the day was in the nursing building, and my second was in the IT building. When I signed up for those two classes, I had no comprehension of the distance between the two, nor did I consider that 15 minutes would be a very short amount of time to walk. When the weather was nice, what I would like to consider a refined jog was possible. But in bad weather, it was very clear I was a freshman when I ran along doing high knees across campus to get to class on time. How I would have loved for Hine Hall to exist back then, as I might have had to travel only that short distance between the nursing building and this one. Iupui is growing, and Hine Hall is an appropriate response to that. Many different schools have to find ways to fit more classes into a finite space. As an undergraduate in the liberal arts program, I had classes in Kavanaugh Hall, the science, business, IT, Heron, and nursing buildings. When the opportunity arose to convert the conference center into a space that would meet students' needs, I was pleased that the administration put classrooms on that list. It's not just about convenience, though. The classrooms in this building have some of the coolest technology around, and in my experience, this is part of what produces a high-quality learning environment. For students, a superior classroom, study area, or computer lab has always encouraged a higher level of academic performance. There have been multiple occasions when a spacious and comfortable classroom has brought group projects together, yielding some pretty exciting results. This building is yet another product of the great relationship between the students of Iupui, their student governments, and the Iupui administration. Once the project had been decided, it was Chancellor Bance, Vice Chancellors Rhodes and Davenport, Kate Julius, and Jason Spratt, who came to student government meetings, not only keeping everyone up to date, but also engaging the students by answering questions and taking suggestions. I have spoken with students who have had classes in Hine Hall as part of the soft opening, and they have reported a positive experience. This space will help in part to meet some of Iupui's high demand for academic space. Hine Hall is just one piece in the administration's plan to address this ever-growing need, but this is a very economical, space-smart, top-of-the-line, and wise choice that will benefit the student population for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dean Williams, Professor Windsor, and Mr. Greco. And we now come to the formal naming of Hine Hall at IUPUI. Would everybody please stand? Friends and colleagues, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, I am honored to formally name Hine Hall in memory of the late Maynard K. Hine, a legendary figure in the history of this campus and this university. I commend it to the continued pursuit of excellence in intellectual and professional endeavors. And may all who come here to learn, to teach, to work, and to serve bring still greater contributions to the advancement of knowledge and to the spirit of achievement that define Indiana University. So please join me in celebrating the formal naming of Hine Hall with a round of applause. And please be seated. And we are so privileged to welcome our next two speakers. First, we will hear from Dr. William C. Hine Jr., Sr., Maynard K. Hine's son, who will be followed by his son, Dr. William C. Hine Jr. You can see why it's difficult to make a mistake. Like Maynard K. Hine, both are prominent dentists in this community. Each will speak without further introduction. So please welcome Dr. William C. Hine Sr.
Well, a number of aphorisms that Dad gave me, and I had a career in higher education administration, but one that I want to mention that stood him in great stead as the first chancellor is, I was lamenting my faith one day as a university dean and problems and whatever, and he said, Will, deans don't have problems, they have opportunities for service. I said, well, that's a good perspective. He said, and also hold this thought, if there aren't opportunities for service, why do they need you? And that has stuck with me all over my career, and it's really been very helpful. The other one, he said, Will, as often as you can in events like this, is to be brief and be seated. And Will, Junior and Senior, we will do that tonight. So, Will, why don't you join me up here? I'm very pleased to represent the Hine family today at this event. And on behalf of the Hine family, there are 14 of us here today, including my brother, Maynard K. Hine Jr., who came from Maryland for this event. We are just so pleased that President McRobbie and the trustees honor Dad in this very important way. He believes so strongly in IUPUI and the efforts that a public university is there for the public good. And this building will be of great benefit to the students and to the community. And he would think a great deal in a very positive manner about that. Now, Will wants to say a couple things, and then I'll close.
I was just wanting to say that, when my brother Charlie and I were in dental school, we would often hear about the legacy of Maynard Hine, or have people come up to us with a story or two. And now some people might feel pressure by that to fill those shoes, but we never did, because he was our grandfather. And the lessons we learned from him regarding humility, leadership, ethics, kindness, the responsibility one should have in a profession such as dentistry, those were from a grandfather to a grandson. Those and many traits and lessons both of us still remember and use to this day. A lot has been said. A Hine has been in the dental school basically since my great-grandfather, C.L. Hine, graduated from the Indiana Dental College, as Dean Williams said. And that's over 110 years and counting. And my brother and I are very proud to continue that tradition. And today, by honoring our grandfather in this way, that legacy and involvement on a campus level will also continue. And so today our kids, his great-grandkids, get to hear about the legacy of their great-grandfather, as well as a story or two tonight, I'm sure. And I do know he would be very proud of this honor, so thank you very much.
The family is grateful to the president, the board of trustees, to all those who came out this afternoon for naming of this building after Dad. He would have been so proud as the great growth that IUPUI has done and the important contribution that it has and will continue into the future with the great leadership in place now to be even more important, make a more important contribution to the community in so many different ways. So thank you again on behalf of the family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hine Sr. and Dr. Hine Jr. And now, Dr. Hine Sr., would you please do me a favor in returning to the podium for a moment, and Chancellor Bance, if you could join us as well. Chancellor Bance and Dr. Hine, on behalf of Indiana University, I would like to present each of you with a key to Hine Hall.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. The family will treasure this.
Again, could you join me in congratulating the Hine family and thanking them. As we come to the close of this ceremony, I would like to offer special thanks to the members of the naming committee who worked behind the scenes to plan this event. And I'd like to thank all of our distinguished speakers on this memorable occasion. Our thanks go as well to the members of Vertical Dimension, and I wonder if members of Vertical Dimension could please stand again for our thanks. And finally, thanks to all of you for being here today to help us celebrate a truly important day in the history of the campus and of the university. And I invite all of you to join us immediately afterwards for a reception in the lobby outside this auditorium. Thank you again, and good afternoon.